Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. So we continue to discuss about the light of Buddha, the foundable truths, uh, the true sufferings, the cause of sufferings, the cessation of sufferings, and the path to end the sufferings. So last time we discussed about uh, the Eightfold Paths that relate to uh, the way how to end the sufferings, uh, and within that Eightfold Paths. The first one we have what we call wise view, a wise understanding of life. Without this type of wise view, it's not easy for us to recognize the reality of life, and as a result, we may create the problems for ourselves and others. So in these reviews, we talk about recognition of the karma, the law of cause and effect. And last time we talked about the three characteristics of existence in Buddhist view. It's happened to everything that exists surrounding us, visible and invisible. The first one is impermanent. That means nothing lasts forever. And we talk about no self. There's no permanent self in Buddhist view, because the last time we discussed that the Buddha break out what we call the self into two categories: the material and mental categories. The material categories we have the form as mean the body, and again, we would not live here forever. So one day we have to go. So if this is permanent self, our body would remain here forever, but that's not the case. And in our mental categories, again, our feeling and sensation, most of the time we think that's ourselves, but again, they are fleeting. Uh, they come and go. One moment we have good feeling, another moment we have bad feeling. So if this real self, that means we would have bad feeling for the whole day or for the rest of our life. But that's not the case. In perception, that means our thinking. Again, we have all kind of thinkings, all kind of thoughts in our mind, and we express through uh, our verbal conception or non-verbal conception. We have some kind of idea, thoughts, impression, and so forth. Again, uh, they are impermanence. They are changing moment by moment. One moment we have good thought, another moment we have bad thought, and so forth. So if there is a permanent self, so we have good thought or bad thoughts for the whole day or for the whole years, for the whole lives, but that's not the case. Mental formation, that's mean habitual patterns that we form in our mind, whether it's good or bad habit. Again, they are changing. So if there's a real self, there's will be bad habit forever, but not the case. We can change our habit. And the last one, we talk about the consciousness. Uh, again, last time we recognize as our consciousness in Buddhist view. Uh, there's uh, 8 levels of consciousness. The first 5 belong to the 5 sense organs, and we have the 6 consciousness that disseminate, that analyze the information that we gather from external conditions, and we will send those information to the seven consciousness so that it will determine whether it like or dislike those information. If they are mm, mm, favorable, the seven consciousness will store in the eight consciousness, or even it's unfavorable, the seven consciousness will store in this eight consciousness, because the seven consciousness recognize or attached to the storage consciousness as the real self. That's the problem in Buddhist view. That's in Buddhist psychology, we need to transform this seven consciousness, the one that attach the eight consciousness at the real self. So these are these eight levels of eight consciousness in Buddhism, is similar to Western psychology that we discussed last time. We have input, and those input will be filtered out or recognized through our five sense organs. And if we pay attention, we will go to the automated processes. We have working memories through logic and reasoning. In higher thinking, we will process those informations, and put into what we call the knowledge bank. And it's similar to the eight consciousness, the storage consciousness, or we call the knowledge bank too. But in Buddhist view, this go beyond the brain and knowledge consciousness, or the knowledge bank in this present life. There's all informations that we have stored in the past, in Buddhist view, in limitless past life, not only this lifetime, but limitless past life, if we believe in reincarnations. So those information will recur again uh, in our consciousness, uh, and those information will be stored in this uh, consciousness, or the storage bank, or knowledge bank, like in Western psychology, so that we can make use of those information later on. So again, in Buddhist view, especially in the consciousness school of Mahayana Buddhism, is focused on the seven consciousness, how to transform it so that it would not attach to the self. Uh, Especially it identifies itself with the eight consciousness as the real self. That's why from time to time, from this lifetime to next lifetime, and so forth, this seven consciousness are attached to some kind of real self. That's why if you take the future birth, for example, after someone passed away, the eight consciousness will be the last one to leave the body, and because of attachment of those informations, uh, we can call deep karma in that eight consciousness, and that work together with seven consciousness, because this seven consciousness recognize those deep karma or those information at the cell, uh, what we call intermediate beings. It will take future birth according to those karmas and thought. So again, in Buddhist view, even the Buddha break down the cell into the form and formless one, into the body and the mind, but still we attach to one of them and identify ourselves as one of them. But again, the Buddha reminds us that there's no real self at all. That's why uh, here the anatta has been there's no real self, there's no permanent self that we attach to. So probably Buddhism is the other religions that reject the attachment to the self, so that we would pay attention more on our pure nature, wisdom nature, instead of our physical body, thoughts, processes, or thinking. So that is why the first things we need to have is to understand clearly about this type of impermanent self or no real self. And uh, the next one we want to talk is what we call dukkha. And of course, in Buddhist translation of this word, uh, it means suffering, unsatisfactory, difficult to handle. So we have learned in the first noble truth, the noble truth of suffering and stress, that include the physical suffering as well as the mental suffering. So the physical suffering, we have birth, aging, and death, of course, including illness too. So there's no exception for us to stay away from this kind of physical sufferings. And when we talk about mental suffering, we have sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, despair, um, uh, and so forth. So, as human, we cannot get away from those mental sufferings. Uh, that's why uh, we could not be satisfied with our life at all, whether it's physical one or mental one, um, because um, we have to do all kinds of problems in our life. That's why it's not easy for us to find a good comfort or even the real happiness in our life. And that's why here the dukkha, or one of the three characteristics of existence, is the suffering. Again, uh, like I mentioned before, with this type of notion, uh, doesn't mean that Buddhism look at things in the pessimistic way, in the negative way, but actually, again, like a doctor, the Buddha point out the problems that we encounter in our daily life. It's like the scientists remind us about the uh, phenomena of the weathers, of the chemicals that we mix together. So again, that reality we need to deal with, no matter what we do, no matter who we are. It's not a pessimist view, but we need to recognize so that we can find a way how to deal with. So that's why the Buddha lists out dukkha as one of the three uh, characteristics of the system. Um, so that is why uh, after his recognitions, he attained enlightenment. He recognized them and by the way, how to resolve them, especially with the mentality. So again, uh, when we talk about the mental physical suffering, this all kind of dysfunction that happen in our daily life. And here we have all kind of mm, uh, physical, mental sufferings, all kind of levels according to the dimensions or levels of difficulties or problems or challenges that we encounter with. If we have to deal with disease, we have all kind of problems, especially nowadays. Even more than 50 states reopen normal activities, but we still have to be careful about the COVID-19 virus that still exists. So that's why we need to keep the social system for a while. And we have all kind of physical problems with pain, uh, uh, some problem with wound, and so forth. We have some psychological symptom of problems like personality, strength, behavior. We have some kind of social experience, uh, uh, problems within ourselves and others. When we talk about culture, value, belief, practice, like nowadays is some kind of discriminations uh, against the Asians populations in the state um, during this time of the year, and even we may have the spiritual problems, a challenge. We want to find out the meanings of life after death. We want to know where we're heading to after death and so forth. And of course, many families they have the problems of loss of gift, especially the one that have the family members passing away because of the COVID-19 and so forth. So again, in this particular uh, dukkha, suffering, distraction, difficult to handle. We have all kind of things that we have to handle or encounter. So again, uh, nothing that could help us to be satisfied, uh, to be happy forever, whether we healthy or sick, or whether we wealthy or poor. Mm, so all kind of things bring problems, challenge to us. For example, uh, again, there's some people who are really healthy, but if they uh, were infected by this COVID-19 virus, eventually their body would be deteriorated. And of course, this may affect their mentality. And there's some wealthy people, they even have money, but they cannot uh, mm, uh, handle their mentality, especially stress, anxiety, depressions, and even when they get the COVID-19 virus, no matter what type of wealth they have, um, and toward the end of their life, those wealth, money cannot pay them all, cannot buy them out. So of course, while they still healthy, they can use the money or wealth to buy medicines, to stay away from um, other people so that they can protect their health. But still, one day they have to go, and of course, all kind of things that they have to deal with. So again, go back to what the point I want to say is that the Buddha view remind us to recognize reality of life. through what we call the three characteristics of existence. That's mean anicca, that's mean impermanence, nothing lasts forever. Dukkha, that means suffering, nothing can bring us satisfactions. Anatta, that means there's no real self, there's no permanent self at all. So with that type of understanding, we have what we call wise view, or wise understanding of life. Otherwise, let's say if we don't recognize those things, for example, impermanence of life, and when uh, things change, for example, during the lockdown, if we don't accept that and we go out, we may uh, endanger our life as well as other people because of spreading the coronavirus around. So we have to accept the changing of life. Um, so otherwise, we bring the suffering for ourselves and others. And when we sick, we need to recognize again, um, we cannot remain healthy forever. One day we have some kind of illnesses, and of course, um, one day we have to go. We have to say goodbye to our family members, a lovely one. So even that's difficult to handle, but still, there's sufferings uh, that we have to endure, that we have to face with. Again, with the recognition of there's no permanent self. Mm. So when we break out or follow the Buddha teachings, that, for example, our thought is not ourselves. So if we have the bad thought, a negative thought, a pessimistic thought about something else, again, uh, if we attach that is our view thought, we will get stuck with that kind of thought, and we harm ourselves and others, especially when we so depressed, when we so stressed out. If we recognize, oh, those thoughts are impermanent, those thoughts are not our real self, so we can let them go. Uh, and of course, eventually it may be better. Otherwise, if we think, oh, that's our real thought, when we identify ourselves with those thoughts, we bring our own sufferings and disaster. So those are the benefits that we could recognize with this kind of wise view, the wise view about the three characteristics of existence, so that we can accept things as the way they are. Uh, Otherwise, if we don't know or we don't want to face with them, uh, we will uh, bring our own disaster and substance when things come uh, in the way that we don't like. And again, nothing is perfect in life, uh, whether it's in our material life, in our physical life, in our mental mentality, um, and so forth. So with that kind of understanding, we accept things as the way they are, so we can move on and try our best to help other people, to uh, spread our compassion toward other people instead of thinking about ourselves. So that is the first thing ever the Buddha mentioned, that we need to have this right view, a wise view, right understanding, a wise understanding about life. Again, you need to recognize the karma, the law of cause and effect. You need to recognize the three characteristics of existence, the impermanent, the sufferings, and the non-self. So this is the first um, truth, first understanding that we need to have. So uh, let us move on to the next one. The next one, the Buddha mentioned that um, uh, what we call the right intention of life. On here, in the wisdom categories of the Eightfold Path. Move up here, here. So we have the first one. We cover the wise view or wise understanding of life. That means we need to have recognition of karma, law of cause and effect. We need to recognize the three characteristics of existence. Um, so the next one is wise intention. That's belong to the wisdom uh, part. And again, uh, before we move on, please remember that with this type of wise will, wise understanding of life, we would mm, uh, have the uh, recognitions of life in the way they have, so that we accept and move on, so that we can uh, develop our thought in the proper way. That's why here uh, having right views of life, right understanding of life, we would need to develop right intention, wise intention, right thought. And they come hand in hand together. They cannot be separate. Uh, for example, if we recognize the law of cause and effect, so we would develop the right intention. For example, we know that if we do good deeds, eventually we would receive good retributions. If we help other people, if we care for others, if we show our love and kindness to others, that's our goodness and our good thought and action. And eventually, they would help us, they would love us. So, with that type of understanding, we would develop right intention. That's mean love and kindness, uh, compassion, forgiveness, and so forth. So that's why the first one, the right view or right understanding of life is so important, so that we can set the tone of our thought in the proper way. So here, in wise intention or right intention, right thought, we should develop what we call renunciation, uh, patience, generosity, love and kindness, goodwill, uh, friendliness, uh, compassion, harmlessness, no injury. That's been Runa in Buddhist term. So, with understanding of right views, uh, with having the right views, uh, if we want to live peacefully and happily, we would treat other people in the proper way, in the compassionate ways. Uh, Otherwise, if we one day we want to enjoy our life, if we try to harm other people, uh, so there's no way for us to live peacefulness and happiness, because as long as we harm others, as much as we bring problems to other people, they would not let us go. They would not let us uh, remain peaceful. For example, if we uh, criticize people wrongly, or if we uh, harm uh, their life, if we steal their properties, and so forth, definitely as human, we have to follow certain type of norms. And if we step out that norms, like stealing, killing, lying, and so forth, so we cannot be accepted into this human society. So that's why uh, we have the jails, the prison, that those people who step out of the human moralities. So that's why when we understand everyone want to live peacefully and happily, no one want to be hurt, no one to be suffer. That's why we need to develop those kind of thoughts so that those thoughts will lead our action and our speech in the proper way. Uh, Otherwise, we would not care much about what we say. We would not care much about what we do, because we would not care much about what we think in our mind. So it's so harmful if we have that type of thought. That's right. That's why the Buddha said that the next step that we need to have is what we call wise intention. Uh, to have the right intention so that we can set ourselves in the right way, so that we can set ourselves, our mind in the proper way, so that it would affect to our action and speech later on. So the first is what we call renunciation. Renunciation here in Buddhist view, that means we need to renounce uh, spreading rumor, swindling people, murder, having affair, taking drugs, shoplifting, indecent behavior, getting drunk, assault and battery, land through dirty and so forth. So basically, the Buddha provide the lay Buddhists what we call the five basic uh, precepts, five basic morality for them to follow. The first is to abstain from harming and killing. That means we're not supposed to murder, to assault, to harm, hit other people. Because we know if we kill someone, if we assault someone, we would not be appeased at all. Either we would be put in jail by authorities, or we would be uh, revenged by the victims. So that's why if we want to live peacefully and happily, we have to stay away from those negative acts, harmful acts of harming, killing, um, murdering other people. Of course, in the Mahayana Buddhist traditions, go beyond that too. So it encouraged the followers not even to harm the bugs, the fly, a little insect, because they have life. They want to live. They don't want to die. So that's why we need to renounce from harming others, from killing others. And that's what the denunciation is about. So that we would not commit any crimes or any bad deeds. And the next one is abstain from taking what is not given, like uh, shoplifting, swindling people, cheating other people, and so forth. So again, we want to renounce. The Buddha remind us, teach us that we need to renounce those kind of stealing acts, that would not be permissible in our human society. So uh, that's what we call renunciation of stealing. And the first one, abstain from such misconduct. That's mean abstain from having an affair or indecent behavior, so that we can keep our family uh, in harmony. We need to be faithful with our spouse. If we go beyond or step out that boundary, we bring disaster to ourselves and other people. So that's why in the first precept, the Buddha said that we need to renounce that type of such misconduct. Uh, we need to be faithful with our spouse. And the fourth is absent from lying and false speech. Uh, so again, if we want people to trust us uh, in the way that we express ourselves properly, we need to denounce this type of lying and spread this false, the fake news, or the spread the rumor, or tell lie to other people, or to criticize other people in a harsh way. So we need to denounce those kind of bad speech so that people could trust us whenever we say something else. And Buddhism go further for the fifth precept, abstain from abuse of intoxicant and drugs. We need to stay away from drinking alcohol, taking illegal drugs, or even gambling, so forth. Um, so this fifth precept is considered as the parental precept, and that means if we don't drink alcohol, if we don't take illegal drugs, we may not harm other people. We may not steal other people's properties. We may not involve in such misconduct, and we may not involve in lying to other people. Because as long as we indulge ourselves with alcohol, illegal drugs, I might be murder, I might be uh, murky, and we would not have a kind of clear mind. And if we don't have clear mind, uh, wisdom, definitely it's easy for us to commit some crimes uh, that may relate to our speech and our actions. For example, if someone driving and drinking, definitely it's easy for them uh, to have car accident. And when they involve in car accident, they endanger their life as well as other lives. Not talking about when they don't think right, they don't have a clear mind. It's easy for them to say something that may be offensive to other people. If they have that kind of uh, muddy mind, and they would kill or harm other people that they would read later on. So again, in Buddhist view, we need to denounce those type of bad deeds um, so that we would um, uh, remain in the proper way. So these are the common um, moralities that will be accepted in any society, cultures around the world now. Of course, again, probably only Buddhism prescribes uh, the last morality for the Buddhists to follow, not to take alcohol or illegal drugs, so that they can keep their body and mind being healthy. And again, that's the um, things that a Buddhist need to renounce, need to let go, so that they would remain proper. They would have the proper conduct and proper behavior. So here, the five precepts relate to what we call, when we practice harmlessness, that means we would not harm or kill other. Just means that's the way we can develop our compassion. When we practice the precepts or renounce the student, we can practice the kindness and generosity instead of uh, taking other properties. We can give out, can share our properties, things with other people. Um, and instead of having such misconduct, we practice the conduct of faithfulness and responsibility with our spouse and our loved one. And number four, instead of lying, we practice the conduct of truthful and pleasant speech so that people could trust us. And number five, instead of drinking or make our mind being uh, murky, we practice self-control and be mindful whichever things we are doing. So these are the five positive precepts that Buddha laid out for lay people to follow. Again, when we talk about renunciation, we need to recognize that we need to renounce ourselves from harming other people, from killing, from stealing, from sexual misconduct, from lying, from using intoxicant and illegal drugs, or anything that may be harmful for ourselves and others, physically and mentally. So that's what we call renunciation is about. And another things I like to discuss is what we call in Buddhist view, and also is applicable in any traditions, what we call the forgiveness. Uh, so that means we let go of horrible mistake. We forgive horrible mistake. So um, is in the categories of denunciation too, because if we don't have this type of uh, a virtue, it's not easy for us to move on in our life. So let us stop here today, and next time I will discuss more about the practice of forgiveness in Buddhist view. Nam mô Sakamuni Buddha.